And as Nasik said, what better time to combat the House of Horrors, which we all know the Home Office to be. So we have a range of fantastic speakers coming up tonight, looking at all manner of different aspects of visas. I'm sure many of you all know there are many issues with the visa system at the moment. Costs, the stress, the complexity, exploitation that can come through from it, minimum income requirements, the new e-visas. The list is long and not particularly fun to talk about. So we will be looking at a lot of this because what we want to get out of tonight is to shine a light on the issues. That way we can change things. We can actually make differences and have an impact. And that's what this is all about. There will be stories tonight which will be hard hitting. There will be things which make people feel a bit like this isn't brilliant. I'm feeling a bit depressed. But what I want you to take away from tonight is by shining a light on these issues, we can influence change. And that's what this is all about, of making sure that we are standing in solidarity with everyone and really pushing forward. So what I'm going to do now is pass to my colleague Anne, who is going to give you a bit of background to our Visa Fees campaign, and then we'll be starting to bring speakers through. Okay, Anne, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dan, and thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Welcome to this, our second day of action. I want to speak a bit about Migrant Voice's campaign and how this all got started. Because for the last few years, we, together with our members and our steering group for the campaign, have been campaigning on this issue of visa costs, which are extortionate, and settlement routes, which are simply too long. All our campaigns start with our members raising issues, and that was also the case here. Members were telling us again and again about the impact of the visa system on their lives. And this was where we felt that we need to address this with a campaign that tackles both the cost and the length of the route, working with migrants both on the 5-year route and 10-year route, coming to the UK for many different reasons. We come here for work, for study, and on spousal visas, etc. And we wanted to all come together from all our different routes and say, well, there's something wrong in the system. We come here, but our lives are interrupted by the visas that should be a way to come here, but actually become a hindrance to so many aspects of our lives. And since we started together, we've been speaking out on and to highlight that impact of the current visa system on every aspect of our lives. And I know that other speakers tonight will also share about that impact. But I just wanted to also highlight that what we speak about in our campaign is the fact that the impact isn't just in terms of the money, the cost of the visa, but it affects migrants in terms of debts, but in also the financial decisions you make in everyday life about what you can or cannot afford for yourself, for your children, in terms of how that has a knock-on effect on life possibilities and dreams for the future. And it also affects our employment, housing, relationships, health and mental health. And it affects people even before you start the visa route. If you're coming here on a spousal visas, many are kept apart by the minimum income requirement, for example, before they can even start to jump through the hoops of the visa system. Fundamentally, we campaign through our voices as migrants as our first tool. We speak out about the issue. We speak out in the media, in parliament, through social media, through reports, through briefings, through rallies and events like this, but also in other ways where we meet and discuss and share our experiences and build solidarity and support and get a feeling that we're not alone in this. We are together. And together we want to make sure that more of the public are aware, because in many ways this is a hidden injustice that many are not aware of. And I also want to highlight that we're not alone as Migrant Voice in this campaign. We have many other partner organizations and colleagues who are with us here today, as are many of our steering group members. And many of our organizations around us are also campaigning with us. And together we are seeing that we are starting to make change. Together we're fighting for an ongoing change to the visa system, because it cannot be right that you have to pay £3,600 or more every 2.5 years when there's a huge profit being made on the cost of the visa. And it cannot be right that so many are on such long visa routes paying for a decade or more while lives are in limbo. So I just want to end on saying that our ask for the campaign are to address this, for visa fees to be no higher than the admin costs, and for children not have to pay at all, to abolish the immigration health surcharge altogether, to cap all routes to settlement at 5 years, and furthermore to cut waiting times and improve the way we have the whole application process to make it quicker, simpler, and less stressful. Hopefully we'll keep coming back to those asks, and together we can use this evening as a starting point to continue to call for the changes we want to see. Thank you so much, and back to you, Dan.
Thank you so much, Anne. And as Anne said, we will be coming back to the asks throughout the evening. We're also going to be doing an ask at the end, but I'll give you a bit of foreshadowing on this one now. We've been working on a report that we compiled from survey data that we collected earlier this year. Once that is done, we will be sharing that out. We're going to attempt to host a lobby day and parliamentary event to launch it, but we are going to be asking people to get their MPs involved, to get that report out, so that we can really show what the impact of visa fees are on people. Obviously, we've got a new government now. We've got new MPs who don't know what's going on, a lot of them. They've never dealt with immigration before. They've never dealt with all these issues before. So they are the people that we can really go for and show them these are the impacts which this is having, and influence that change with them. Now, I'm also going to do a bit of housekeeping, the dog stuff straight off. For those who are a bit confused, some of the links that you'll have received will bring you up as Tajwa Shelim when you come in. If you could change your name to your correct name, that would be fantastic. We can't handle more than one Taj around at the moment. Trust me, one's enough there. But he's doing a fantastic job tonight. We are also recording this, and hopefully we're going to be live streaming it, but we'll see how that goes, so that we can get as many people involved. Now, it's not just this event that's taken place today. What we've also done is submitted an open letter, and I want to thank all those people who signed that, to the Home Secretary, calling for a change to the visa system. And we've been posting videos on social media, which, fingers crossed, depending on timings, we will be showing some of them tonight as well. So thank you to everybody who's been involved, because we all need to pull together on this. This is all about solidarity. By showing numbers, by showing the impact, we can make a big difference. Now, amazingly, at this point, we are actually running ahead of time. So I'm hoping Livia is here and available, because we have so many people who've joined us. Fantastic. So Livia, if you're happy, I can pass over to you and as our first speaker and taking the big jump of opening up for us. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the introduction, Daniel. And nice to see everyone here, some familiar faces and also new people in this beautiful community. So in case you don't know me, my name is Livia. I'm from Brazil originally, but I have been living in the UK, in Sheffield for the past 8 years. I'm a journalist, I'm a writer, and I work with the community in Sheffield as a community engagement worker for different projects, for different charities. It's my pleasure to be here today. First of all, I would like to say, when I met Migrant Voice about 2 years ago, I think I met Migrant Voice in a very important moment for me, because back on time, 3 years ago, I was very close to apply for my indefinite leave to remain back on time, and it was the right support I needed back on time. And I just want to say, I already got my indefinite leave to remain, and then I got the citizenship, but all the hostility I went through while on a spouse visa route for 5 years, I will never forget that. And I think it's quite common. Some people, maybe after a few years, oh, I just went through that and it's okay, I'm just moving on, I don't want to talk about that anymore. But I think we need everyone together. It's how I see the things, in support and in solidarity, because we can't just, ignore what all the abuse. I felt like my relationship was actually tested many times, especially when we were close to make the renewal of the visa. So back on time, in my whole process, we spent about £11,000 plus the citizenship. It was a lot, but I know now it's even more expensive. And I think it must have a limit. And we can't see this kind of limit, because every year it's supposed to be even more difficult. Now they have other rules. People who are students, they can come to the UK to study, but they can't bring their families, which is a lot for many families, to not be together. Also, all this racist riots we had in summer was awful to have that. I felt like what I'm doing here in this country is about this. I don't feel comfortable with this. I don't think people, asylum seekers, refugees, this is completely ridiculous. People are doing all this angry against migrant communities. So I think it's like many different things. The system, unfortunately, in this country are going migrants to go through, putting migrants to go through. This is unfair. Migrants make hugely valuable contributions to this country, to the arts, culture, economy, society, the health system, academia. In many different ways, we are contributing here. But however, today it's Halloween, and it has been very scary for many people in this country to deal with this expensive visa fees. And I really like all this movement. I keep telling many people about Migrant Voice and this valuable work all across the country. It's really good to be here with people from different cities in the UK. So we can, after the meeting, my suggestion for people is if they can share with others about, and then we keep the rally going on. If you can share about other people about the work Migrant Voice is doing in the UK, I think it would be nice. So my feeling is, as a migrant, even if you are an honest person trying your best to add positive things to the place where we are living, and the immigration system don't see that in that way. They can be cruel to you. Unfortunately, many people don't know about this unfair challenge, and many migrants have been struggling in silence in this country. So I say that because while I was in the process to get my indefinite leave to remain, when I was on my visa route, I was telling some British friends about the costs, about all the documents, all the bureaucracy, all the mental health issues. It's the money, but it's also the mental health side as well. I was talking about this, and many people didn't know about that. Oh, is it really? You're talking about is all this money for just a visa, 2 years and a half? Yeah, I can show you. Yeah, it's unfortunately it's the true fact. I'm not here for free. So also migrants don't have the right to get any public funds. So a family with small children, they will not have those childcare benefits that can be really important for many families, but they don't have the right to have that. So I think the way the system is designed at the moment needs a lot of change, and it's really good to have discussions like this for everyone to come together as a community and stand in solidarity. It's very important. Really, thanks for having me. I don't know if it was more than I was supposed to talk, but I think it's what I wanted to share.
Olivia, thank you so much. That was absolutely perfect. And what a way to kick off as well. You really highlighted the issues there and expressed them so well. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. What we're going to do now is my colleague Taj is going to play us a quick video, a short video that we've got. Again, people talking about their experiences, because we want to get voice. This is the thing. We want voices speaking out. As Olivia said, we need that solidarity across the country, and we need people speaking out. So we're going to have a short video, and then we'll be back to speakers.
Minimum income requirement for the spousal visa, as well as different rules for employed and unemployed sponsors, means that my British children will join my British wife in Wales in 2025, and the earliest that I may be able to apply is mid to late 2026. Our family unit will have been apart for more than 2 years by that time. My wife returned to the UK in April of 2024, and I have been a single parent since. Next year, my wife will be a single parent in the UK. The financial burden of having to live 2 separate lives and run 2 separate households while saving for all the needs of immigration are not taken into account by the visa requirements, nor is the long-term psychological and emotional damage caused to our 2 children by first losing one parent for a year and then the next for at least another year, all while living through the process of immigration to a different country. British spouses should be allowed to bring their families home without paying a ransom. If 18 years of marriage and 2 children is not enough to prove a relationship, what is?
And I think that's something that minimum income requirements are one of the huge, huge issues that we know so many people are facing. And it's something which, we saw the last government increase this. We all know it's wrong to charge people to be with their loved ones. So we need to be focusing on all of these issues. I am now going to slightly switch to say one quick thing. I appreciate that I look smart, but I don't normally dress in black. But with it being Halloween, so we are, if people would like to, you don't have to, but in the spirit of Halloween, and you can see some of my colleagues have got into the spirit of this one, if you would like to use the sort of graphics on Zoom, my colleague Taj will probably, I'm sure, will put in an instruction into the chat for you so that you can dress up for Halloween, because it's a scary topic and it's a serious topic, and we're not underplaying that it's a serious topic. But look how many people are here tonight on Halloween, standing in solidarity with each other. So we can focus on the serious, but we can also look at this from the fact of, this is Halloween. Let's call out the horrors. We might as well, because we've got to. The government's not doing it at the moment. They need us to call out the horrors. So let's dress up for it. Now, moving on, and I'm going to ask Pete from Flex to do this, to come in next. Don't worry, Pete, you don't have to put on a hat or anything for the actual speech. But yeah, so I'll pass over to Pete if you can introduce yourself and tell us a bit.
Perfect. Well, hi everyone. It's good to see you all this evening. My name is Pete, and I'm the Senior Policy and Networks Officer at Focus on Labour Exploitation, or Flex. And just to give a quick overview, Flex is a policy and research organization that takes a workers' rights and migrant justice approach to look at the root causes of labour abuse and labour exploitation in the UK. So just to start off with, I'd like to ask everyone to imagine you're a migrant care worker facing labour abuse or even severe labour exploitation like modern slavery. Your choice is to come forward and risk deportation and debt bondage, or stay quiet and let your situation deteriorate further. Under the UK's current system, for thousands of migrant workers, this isn't a hypothetical. I want to talk through the story of Chidera. Chidera is a care worker from Ghana. She went almost 4 months without having a day off. I'd like to think any of us would do this. She complained to her manager, but her manager threatened to fire her and told her that her visa would be revoked. Then there's Abena. Abena is another migrant care worker from Southern Africa. She faced serious repeated sexual abuse from her manager and was too scared to come forward because of fears about losing her income and losing her visa. Where a migrant worker on a sponsored visa raises a complaint, the Home Office response to labour rights abuses can be to remove the employer's sponsorship license. This means that a worker and all of their colleagues, sometimes over 100, have 60 days to find a new employer willing and able to sponsor their visa, or else they'd be forced to leave the UK, potentially with debts that they could never pay back. If you're entirely dependent on your employer for your ability to remain in the UK, for your income, even for accommodation, can we really genuinely say that workers are able to come forward about abuse? At the moment, the government is lauding the Employment Rights Bill, which has been tabled a couple of weeks ago, and they're lauding it as a once-in-a-generational step forward for workers' rights. But we need to look at how the UK's work visa system has risks of exploitation baked into its design. How migrant workers can't avail of rights, how they're divorced from the ability to access basic protections. And in the UK, restrictive visas have created a two-tier workforce where migrant workers face significant barriers to enforcing their rights. This creates a race to the bottom in terms of pay, in terms of conditions across the whole UK labour market. I think it's fair to say the Employment Rights Bill will only be as strong as its weakest link. Otherwise, unscrupulous employers might be able to rely on coercion or global inequality to trap people in bad employment and impede their ability to come forward or their ability to even push for higher wages or better conditions. At Flex, we call for a number of measures that need to be put at the front of any attempt to make work pay for all workers, and that includes migrant workers. Workers need to know that coming forward about labour abuse and exploitation won't result in them being doubly punished, first by their employer, and second by anti-migrant policies like the hostile environment in the UK. And to do this, we need to make sure that workers aren't completely dependent on their employer in the first place. The UK has already fallen behind a number of other countries which have tried to ease the pressure on workers who are trying to escape abuse or exploitation. The Republic of Ireland has the Employment Reactivation Permit. Australia recently instated the Workplace Justice Visa. Canada has an Open Work Permit. This is just to name a few. These aren't perfect, but these visas all provide workers with some ability to work and remain in the UK, where they face labour abuse or exploitation from their employer. And these bridging visas are a vital lifeline where someone has been really just thrown to the wolves by the sledgehammer response of the Home Office, who've revoked a sponsorship license without putting protections or support in place for affected workers. And I guess it needs to be said that a bridging visa will only ever be a sticking plaster. What we do need is an immigration system that doesn't bring about these risks in the first place. We need a preventative approach. And in the absence of free movement, all UK work visas need to be renewable, subject to ongoing employment. UK needs to end the use of short-term work visas. For example, on the seasonal worker scheme, workers can only remain in the UK for 6 months. And this is the visa route with a well-documented risk of exploitation. For these workers, the government's talking about doing a 9-month probation period. But for these workers on the seasonal worker scheme, they'll be divorced from proper protections over the entire duration of their visa if this level of protection against unfair dismissal is set at the 9-month marker. And just to finish off, I'd like to say that I am cautiously optimistic about some of the provisions within the Employment Rights Bill, and particularly the proposed Fair Work Agency, which is proposed as a new labour market enforcement authority that would combine powers across a number of different existing labour market enforcement authorities. And this is the ability to maybe bring clarity to the fragmented labour market enforcement system that we have in the UK and build resilience against drivers of risk for workers. And that being said, the effectiveness of any Fair Work Agency is very much contingent on its design and its resourcing. Otherwise, it'll just be a rebranding exercise. The Fair Work Agency needs to be equipped to enforce labour protections for all workers. And this means enshrining secure reporting procedures that make sure that labour inspectors prioritise workers' well-being over immigration enforcement. Workers need to feel able to come forward to labour market enforcement authorities without their migration status being shared with immigration enforcement. If workers can't trust the Fair Work Agency to protect them and support them, they won't approach or cooperate with the Fair Work Agency in the first place. And I guess I'd just add to close, workers' rights and migrant rights, and migrant rights are workers' rights. And any government that wants to make work pay needs to make sure that migrant workers get a fair deal as well. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much, Pete. And I know how much work Pete puts into this and how much work Flex puts into this as well. So really appreciate you joining us tonight and all the work you're doing on everything. I mean, it shows just how ingrained all of this is. When you look at the Employment Rights Bill, this is an area where we can hopefully make some differences and get better protections. I had someone earlier on today say, well, why don't we organise a mass thing where all migrants withdraw labour for the day and show everyone? And that sounds wonderful, but you look at the precarious positions so many people are in, reliant on those visas, that the risks involved in this and the risks people feel every day are astronomical. And these are the sorts of issues we need to be flagging and need to be raising. Now, I'm going to actually, this is because we've had this like thing with people logging in as Tashwa Shalem. So if you haven't changed your name, I'm going to ask if you can change your name as soon as possible. I'm going to ask at this point whether one of our speakers is in the room because we can't see him. Matt, if you are there, could you sort of flag yourself to either myself or one of our colleagues? If not, though.
Hiya. Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself for a minute, but I am here.
No, brilliant. Thank you. That's wonderful. And in that case, I'm going to pass over to Matt from the TC. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great. Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, thanks for the invitation to speak at this really important event. And thanks to all the people who've shared their experiences so far, whether in person or on the videos. I think they've summed up the problems much better than I'll be able to. I just wanted to share a few of the perspectives on reforms that we need, that the Trades Union Congress will be putting forward. So Daniel, I think as you said at the beginning, the way the visa system is designed,
Is it me that you're talking to the host to do, or is it me?
Sorry, it's designed in a way to facilitate the exploitation of workers. So whether that's short-term visas, workers effectively being tied to one employer, or a lack of access to employment rights enforcement, the way the visa system is designed makes it very difficult for migrant workers to be treated fairly. And I think one of the important elements that we're focusing on tonight in the system that needs to change is visa fees. And visa fees, we hear from unions across the labour market about how visa fees are causing issues for their members, whether it's teachers, care workers or agricultural workers. So just to flag up a few examples with agricultural workers, Peter was talking about the seasonal workers, they have to pay visa fees and often they'll arrive in the UK and never actually receive any work. So they've incurred great levels of cost and then are treated terribly when they get here and forced to sort of go home in debt. With some employers, we've heard from unions, will also try and recoup the visa fees that they've paid via repayment clauses in workers' contracts. So not only will a worker have to pay their own visa fees, but they'll be on the hook to pay the employers as well. And that keeps workers tied to one employer and increases the scope for them to be treated really badly. And then there's the issue with extortionate settlement fees as well. They're really unfair. They cause workers great stress and worry, and they're unaffordable. And I just wanted to share a couple of quotes from GMB care workers who shared their experiences with us. So the first one, it's the person says, "It took 5 months and 2 weeks for us to get a decision. It was the longest 5 months of our lives. We were extremely anxious the entire time, uncertain of my work status after investing such a substantial amount. People shouldn't have to go through this financial nightmare after paying so much in tax and national insurance just to extend their visa in a country where they work daily and add value." And I just wanted to share another experience from another worker as well. So for our family of 3, the debt totaled nearly £12,000, money we simply did not have. To pay this enormous sum, I had no choice but to borrow the entire amount. Now I'm in debt and I face repayments over the next 3 years of £324 a month. For 3 years, I'll be repaying this sum, which could have helped us with basic needs and our child's future. This debt, taken just to keep our family together, has placed us on the edge of financial survival. As a care worker, my income is modest. I work long hours in a demanding job to make ends meet. Yet with this debt, there are days I wonder if we'll manage to keep up with basic expenses like food, bills, and clothing for our child. And I thought this end quote was really startling. It says, "Every month, the £324 we pay towards this debt reminds me of the sacrificing we're making for something so many take for granted, a permanent home." So I wanted to share those experiences from GMB workers with you because I think that their experiences sums up the unfairness and cruelty of the system that we need to reform. So just to sum up, what will the TUC do going forward? Colleagues have mentioned the Employment Rights Bill. I think there are areas where it could be improved to protect migrant workers, but I think there are lots of avenues in there where we can try and campaign to improve it. So there's going to be a right to access for trade unions to get into workplaces, which we hope will lead to more migrant workers getting into trade unions. Peter mentioned the Fair Work Agency. There's still going to be a lot of consultations around that, so there's scope to make sure that it properly protects workers on visas. And then there's also in the care sector going to be a fair pay agreement where unions and employers have to sit around the table and decide what the core terms and conditions are going to be for care workers. And one of the TUC priorities is to make sure that that includes migrant care workers and that they're protected properly as well. And then we'll continue to work with our affiliated trade unions to get examples like the ones I shared with you to raise awareness of these issues. We've got a meeting with the Home Office Immigration Minister coming up soon where we're going to raise this important issue. And just to say that we wholeheartedly support Migrant Voices campaign and the key ask for that. Thank you for inviting us along, and we'll make sure we continue to work with you and other organisations to tackle this important issue. But thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Matt. And thank you for the support from the TUC, because it's wonderful to hear that and the work that you're doing on this. Because I think, and I'm guilty of this as much as anybody else, we focus on visa fees and things as a migrants' rights sector issue, as a migrants, but it's something that it encompasses so many different things. It's workers' rights, it's people's lives. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And when you talk about people's lives, that covers a whole range of things, and it means that people from different areas are involved, and we need that solidarity from those areas. And it's wonderful to hear that. And absolutely with support from unions on ensuring that employment rights and protections are really embedded. Now, I'm going to move swiftly on to our next speaker, who's going to talk about their own experiences. This is Kat from Praxis. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. And I will pass over to you to tell us your own experiences. Thank you.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Kat from Praxis, the action group at Praxis. Yeah, I've joined Praxis for like maybe 3 years now. I still volunteer with Mama Sue's, where we take care of the asylum seekers, migrants. We give them tea, take care of them, take care of their kids and all that. I volunteer with Aquaba. I don't know if any of you know Aquaba. So I volunteer with them. You know, they have homeless people that come there to take tea, to take shelter for some hours. So I do volunteer with those, a lot of charities. So I'm here to speak about my own lived experience about the 10 years route and how the visa fee has affected me. I'm a mom of 4. It has not been easy for me at all. I struggle. I have long-term illness, mental health, physically, emotionally. Then the 10 years route is there, which is, I don't know how to describe it. So for me, sometimes I have to choose to put food on the table for the kids or to save to pay my visa fee. You can see how hard it is as a mom of 4. It is a big struggle for me. So why I'm here today, just to say that the government should look into what we are talking about today. Visa fee and 10 years route has put families into poverty, has caused moms into struggling. A lot of my friends that in this 10 years route, they're depressed. Their mental health is nothing to write home about. Sometimes I'm working, I forget about my name, I don't even know what man. If you are calling me Kat, I look back if I can see who is calling me to tell you how the 10 years route has affected me emotionally. Sometimes I just cry. I can't hold my tears. It's like the Home Office put me inside a bottle. When it's 2.5 years, they bring me out of the bottle to go and hustle to pay for my visa fee. So it is, I don't know how to put it. In practice, we have parents that come in every day, depressed, they are crying. They are telling us they don't know what to do. And we have the hardship fund, we give them £50 3 times a year, £50. Are you buying school fees with £50? Are you buying a meal for your kids with £50? Are you buying school shoes with £50? What about the uniform? This school my kids goes, they have uniform shop. One skirt alone is around 30-something pounds. And I have 4 children, 3 girls and a boy. Tell me, it's a big struggle. It is a big struggle. I don't know how to, what words I will use to describe how I feel. Sometimes I don't sleep in the night. I'm awake, I'm thinking. When it's getting to the 2.5, I am thinking, how do I renew? Where will I get this money from? How am I going to cope with my children? I'm buying bus pass, I'm buying train pass. So it's a big one for me. So in practice, it is not easy. We see parents, different parents. At practice, we see people every day who have been forced into terrible hardship by this cost. Desperate parents juggling multiple jobs who still don't have enough to feed or clothe their children because they need to save for that visa renewal. Children growing up in cold, overcrowded homes whose parents can't afford anything else because of all the money is going to the home office. I want the government to make the visa fee to be affordable for people and to make the 10 years route, shorten it to 5 years. Let them give us the actual cost of the visa fee so that we can be able to pay, because this visa fee has led a lot of people of color like me into poverty situation, overcrowded house. The house I was living before, they smoke all kind of, I don't know how to describe it. My children, everywhere is full of smoke. My kids, every day I'm going to the GP, I'm reporting to the council, I'm doing this. Nobody was coming to my aid. It was toxic. But I have to speak to someone at a process. This is what I'm going through. They are the one that is fighting for me and for my children. I don't have anybody to fight for me. I don't have anybody to speak for me. But undermining what I'm going through, I'm still there volunteering, taking care of migrant people, taking care of other asylum seekers like me. So I'm full of emotion and I don't want to start sharing tears here. So that is why I'm here today, to speak, to see how we can come together and to help these migrant and asylum people. They are passing a lot. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Kat. I know I've been making jokes during this, but what you've said is this is the impact on people's lives, and it's so important that that's heard. And greatly, greatly appreciate you sharing that, because I imagine it's not easy to share to so many people. So thank you, and you have my full respect for speaking out on that, because when people speak out, we can get that message out. And we have people talking from different routes, from the 10-year route, the 5-year route, and it shows the impact of these routes on people's lives, the impact of these costs. So that is so important. So thank you very, very much. What I'm going to do now is pass over to Taj to play another video briefly before our next speaker. So we have a little break from me talking.
My name is Ana Wembes, and I'm an international student from Nicaragua. On this Day of Action 2024, I'd like to share my story. I came to the UK because I was fortunate enough to win a scholarship to fund postgraduate studies in the UK. My journey was not as easy as I thought it would be. Since I had complete funding, I thought it would be quite easy to obtain my visa. Because my country doesn't have an embassy, I had to travel 2 times to a neighboring country. I was also expected to pay for premium service fees if I wanted to track my visa status. I couldn't afford this, and as a result, I couldn't track my visa status. I couldn't find out that my passport had been retained at customs, and I ended up coming late to start my program, which put me at a disadvantage academically. Although I was able to navigate this situation and I made it to the UK eventually, this is not always true for everyone. The system does not support them and is not equitable for everyone. And it's time to change that. So on this Day of Action, I want to encourage you to share your stories and the stories of those that can't speak for themselves.
And that video from Anna, I'm very pleased to say that Anna is here tonight, or hopefully here tonight, and we'll be speaking later on. So hoping she'll tell us more about that story there. Now, moving swiftly on, which I have to be honest, it is the first time in history for one of these things we are actually running ahead of schedule. So that's quite an amazing feat. But moving on, we now have Juliana Lobo, who's going to tell you some of her story about how she's been affected. Juliana, over to you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you all for having me. So before I start, I want to say how much I see of myself in everything that I've heard so far since I joined the meeting. And I was very emotional with Kat's speech. I've been in the UK for 6 years now. I first came to London to do my master's degree, so I had a student visa. And at that point in time, when you apply for a master's degree, you could bring your family, your husband, your partner as a dependent, and your children. So it was extremely hard for us, although we had a good life in Brazil, we had good jobs, but obviously when you convert everything into pounds, we had to sell our house, which I bought together with my husband to be able to prove to the Home Office that we had enough funds in the bank not to need any benefit, because that was one of the requirements. So the stress started from the very beginning, from a long time ago, when we knew that we had to start proving everything. We had to prove that the marriage was real, sharing pictures, but I really never thought to myself that it was going to be even harder than what it was in the beginning. So we then changed from my student visa to a work visa. The company sponsored me, but obviously the costs were absolutely crazy. We could never find enough money. So we were trying to find money to pay for the bills, and then the pandemic came. I started to have anxiety. I went through the GP, and I felt I shouldn't really go to the GP, because I felt that if I was going to search for medical advice, it might be that the Home Office would find out and they would think that I was going to use the system even more. So I had to cope with my anxiety and try to hide that from my employers, from friends, from people, to avoid the judgment. Because at the end of the day, no one understands what we go through, but we know exactly how hard it is. And then, of course, we had the help of our employers, my husband as well, but still we had to find a money which was never there. So as Matt was saying about debts, we also have debts. So we always, next year, we need to find another £11,540 on the top of the almost 30,000 that we already paid so far since the very first visa, and then lawyers and everything. Now, finally, we came up to a point in which we don't need to have a lawyer anymore. So we have spent a little bit less, if you know what I mean, but I still don't know how I'm going to be able to find that money. So when I heard Kat saying, that's how I feel, every night I go to bed thinking, do I ask a friend? Do I ask my family? My family in Brazil don't want us to stay because they think we go through some humiliation. My father said, you don't need to go through that. Why are you there in the first place? Come back to the place where you belong. So they do not understand. I haven't got the support of my parents because they think I should go back instead of going through this emotional and psychological pressure and nightmare. So I keep doing loans, calculations online to see if I would be approved. And then, as Kat said as well, I need to stop my kids from having a proper holiday. So they come to me, Mom, why can't we never go on a holiday? What is this visa fees? Why do you have to pay visa if you work so hard? When are we able to go somewhere, a proper holiday? They can't. Then Christmas come, they want to buy something. I said, I can't really buy that because next year we're going to pay that visa. And my son is becoming older now, so he starts questioning even more. Why do we need to go through that, Mom? If it's so hard for us to be here, why don't we just go back to where we belong? So this fight for belonging is just, we just don't know when it's going to stop, because even next year when we apply for the indefinite leave to remain, the whole process, it takes longer than 6 months, which means that we are unable to do anything. We can't sleep until the email comes through. When I was waiting for my visa approval, for my work visa, I had to involve my MP. They had to contact the immigration department because there was a huge delay on the sponsorship license. And it's hard when I talk about visa to my work colleagues. They don't know what I'm talking about, as Livia mentioned. Some people question, is that real? When I say we pay to be able to use the NHS, they say, what are you talking about? I went to the doctor the other day with my son, and the doctor didn't want to refer my son to a further test. And I said, you're going to call the police, you call whoever you want, but I'm not leaving the hospital without a referral. I pay to be using the NHS. And she said to me, everyone pays. We all the same. I said, no, I pay extra. That's double taxation. My son needs to see a proper doctor. I'm not going to be happy with your instructions. I'm not leaving you. Call the police and I'm staying. So we need to, in the very beginning, 6 years ago, I would never face anyone. I would never speak out. Now I do not allow them to come to me and say, you do what I say you have to do. So I question, I write to my MP, I ask them the questions, I fight for my rights, but I know some people are not in the same situation. Some people have different circumstances, different backgrounds, and they don't feel enough confident to fight in the same way that I feel confident to do so. I've tried to contact my MP last week because now she's from the Labour Party, and I can see that she was involved in some other project. But again, every time I start a draft of an email, I question myself, should I just give up? That's what they want us to do. They expect us to give up because it's a huge, it's a endless fight, but we can't give up. And I'm so happy to know there's so many people supporting us. The Migrant Voice always here for us, but we just need to find a way. As Daniel always says, we need to raise awareness. We need to bring the media. And I just feel sometimes really tired. I was telling my husband the other night, I said to him, we haven't got anything. I'm going to be 43 years old. We have no idea how we're going to pay that money for a start. We've sold the only thing we had in our life, which would give some safety and security to our children. We've sold that property in Brazil to prove to the Home Office that we could survive here without public benefits. And now we can't even find the money for the visa. How can I plan myself ahead to find money to give a deposit to a house or to go to a better place with my children? We just can't do anything. And as Daniel mentioned before, I work, as many other people here, I work, I'm paying my taxes. We come at the end of the day, is the rent, is the bill, is the council flat. I'm not eligible for school tax-free school childcare, that tax-free childcare. So I pay after school clubs, breakfast club to be able to go to work in the morning, come back late. So my kids are always the first one in breakfast club, always the last one. And they ask me, why do you have to work that hard? And we never have a proper holiday, Mom. So I try as well to contact them to understand why I'm not allowed for the tax-free childcare, even though I pay all my taxes as a full-time worker, and my husband as well, he pays all his taxes. Why are we not allowed for the same benefits that every other worker in the UK has? And then when you go to eligibility criteria, it shows you need to be settled in the UK. You can't apply. So the fact that I'm here paying my taxes are not enough. That's not enough for them. I really hope that this meeting may give us some strength, some hope, that we know we can hold hands together and we should never give up. My husband, sometimes he asks myself, do you think it's even worth staying? And I let him go to sleep, and then I start crying myself on my own because I don't want him to know that I'm about to give up. And I say to him, we're not going back until we get what we deserve after all this stress and struggle that we have gone through. But even so, sometimes I just think I haven't got enough energy anymore to start. And then when we discuss that in a pub, in a restaurant with our friends, some people don't give credibility because they don't see that on the news. And then it's tiring having to prove yourself. having to prove that you are here paying all those fees that they don't even know about. So I hope we can carry on with this movement of support and encouragement to be able to reach what we deserve: inclusion, respect, dignity, and we need to see the light at the end of the tunnel, because it's really hard for people, for everyone. But it just breaks my heart, those ones with kids. Obviously, everyone suffers. But when I see children being penalized by the fact that the parents are being used as money machine, it's just so frustrating to see those young kids having their futures stolen by the government. It's absolutely, we just don't know how to look at that in a different perspective. Thank you very much. Sorry if I said too much and if I mix everything up.
No, Juliana, thank you so much for speaking and speaking so well. I really respect you speaking out on that, and thank you so much. Obviously, there was a lot there. What I'm going to take from that for everyone here is the importance of recognizing you're not alone. Tonight is showing the solidarity that can be there. There is strength in numbers. When you're fighting, it can feel like you're on your own, but there is strength in numbers. And one of the things Migrant Voice wants to do is bring people together to get your voices out there. Because if we can have people who speak to politicians, who speak to the media, so many people don't understand the day-to-day impact of vis-a-vis, the costs, the international health surcharge. We hear it all the time. People going, well, that can't be right. Well, no, this is what it is. This is how it's affecting people. And this goes right to the top. If you think back to during the pandemic, and the Prime Minister at the time, who I won't name in case I upset people, on two separate occasions showed he did not understand what no recourse to public funds was. So there is this lack of knowledge, even from people who really should know about it. And if they don't know the basics, they're definitely not going to understand the impact on people's lives. So this is why we want to encourage people to work with us, talk to the press, become that voice if you can, if you're confident enough, if you're happy enough to do so. Because once we get people talking in the media, once we get people talking to politicians, we can raise awareness of this. And look at this solidarity and look at when people do get it, they are shocked. And that shock can really translate into enacting change.
Thank you, Daniel. If you allow me to make just one more comment, because I just saw a question coming up on this chat and it asked about the employers. I would like to highlight how lucky I was to have found an employer who respects me, who includes me, but it's not like that to everyone. It's not like that to everyone. I'm not going to lie to you, until I really find out that they would support me enough and that they would trust myself enough to support me under any circumstance. I was always trying to prove myself, thinking that they were testing me, you know, because I was the only migrant within the organization. I'm the only one not English. I'm the only one not blonde with blue eyes. So I was always questioning myself, for how long are they going to have me? For how long are they going to sponsor me? So now I'm coming to the end of the second work visa, but it's hard when you don't have an employer who supports you. So how can those people, because I know so many other people who have been exploited by their employers, who, as I think Mark was mentioning, they are deducting the visa fees from their salaries, you know, even their sponsorship license. I'm on a Facebook group and I saw someone the other day and I said, you need to find legal advice, that it's not legal. But how can we help those people? Because I know many people, they come to me and they ask those questions. And I think it's really unfair and they must be going through too much pressure with their employers.
No, could not agree more. And this is one of the reasons we keep talking about the employment rights as well, holding employers to account and providing protections for people on this.
Yeah.
Now, Julia, you just mentioned the chat and the comments in there. I do want to thank everyone who's posting in the comments. you keep seeing me talk, but behind the scenes are the amazing Migrant Voice team who are trying to keep up with all the comments as well. But there are so many fantastic ones in there. Please do bear with them because everyone's trying to answer and respond where we can. But thank you to everyone sharing your stories in the chat as well. And if you haven't read them, I really recommend reading those as well. Now, I'm going to pass over very quickly, though, to our next speaker, Anka, who I'm hoping is here. Yes, fantastic.
I'm here. Hello, I have a cold, so I'm sorry if I sound awful. Um, Thank you so much for everyone who spoke, and I'm so emotional listening to everybody, and I relate to so much of what everyone has been saying. Juliana, thank you so much for everything you said, and it just feels like it's never over. I've been in this country 17 years now, and only now am I doing my citizenship application because with India doesn't allow for dual citizenship, which is also part of this post-colonial trauma that we are in, and this decision that India has taken has been based on that. And at this point, 17 years in, after going through like the 10-year route to get the ILR and now apply for my citizenship, I am absolutely drained in every sense of the word. I'm financially drained. A friend has set up a fundraiser to help me collect funds to pay for the citizenship. I'm emotionally drained. My health is drained. My sense of community is drained. Like, and I know that many of you relate to this. I am drained in every way that is possible. Um, and I also I keep thinking about what is it going to be like once I get this citizenship? Am I going to finally start to feel like I belong to this place? Am I finally going to start to feel like I can communicate with this place? Because the truth is, I can't. The truth is that the way I feel, the way I think is different from here. For most of us as migrants, we are here in body, but we are almost never here in mind and in heart. And I don't know if you agree with what I'm saying, but I feel such a gap between how this world engages with me and how I respond to it, in that I sometimes feel like I'm just here in body, but I don't process like I'm supposed to process the information I receive from here. And I keep looking at the situation of the world around me, and everywhere there is more land grabbing, there is more gender violence, there is more religious persecution, and there is the creation of more and more and more migrants. And this is going to keep happening. This is not something that is going to stop right now. More internal migrants within the country, more international migrants. And I think that if we sit back here and we think that the Home Office has to sort of be kinder in its approach, be more human in its approach, I think that for me is not enough language to describe what I feel they are doing. What they are doing is intentional, and what they're doing is harassment. And that is what I believe. I believe that they are harassing people. I have a friend. She was born here. Her mother is from Ghana. They lost her mother's ILR documentation. And now her mother, after being in this country 30, 40 years, is having to reapply when her children are born here. She's having to reapply for her ILR. I mean, this is absolutely intentional. This is absolutely intentional, if you ask me. And I can tell you so many stories like this from so many people that I know. My story, other people's stories is just insane. So I think that amongst us, we have to be absolutely crystal clear in our minds about at least the language that we use within us and how we understand the issue. This is not a, oh, they are going to do better, they're going to do better. This is a, we need to understand that this is absolutely intentional, in my opinion, anyway. And I really felt like it was important to say that. I also think it's really important to understand the historical context of this creation of this idea of citizenship, and where it comes from, and who gets it and who doesn't get it, and who has more access to it, and whose citizenship does what. I think this is what we have to be deeply aware of. And I try to spend so much time studying it, but I am in so much survival mode because there is only so much time to earn money to feed myself and to meet my needs, to earn money to pay for the citizenship, to to do everything else one needs to do to survive, and then on top of that to try to have a social life and to try to have connection and community. I feel so stuck in survival mode, and I don't know, maybe getting the citizenship will ease it a little bit, but I don't know that it will ever solve itself. It's like what you were saying, Juliana. I want to get what I have given up so much for and given up ancestral wealth for. This is the continued colonization. They keep like you had to sell your property back you are from. We've all had to liquidate funds from where we are from in order to show funds to survive here, right? So I think it's absolutely horrific to think that this has been happening for so many generations, and it continues to happen. Last year at the Day of Action outside the Home Office, I read a poem of mine. I've written a poem on migration, and everybody really liked it. And Taj suggested and Anne suggested that I read it again. So I'm going to read the poem, if that's okay with everyone. And then you won't have to hear my croaky voice anymore after that. So this poem is called Oceans. Ask somebody that has had to cross oceans to get here how many times they had to learn how to swim and how many times they drowned. Ask somebody that has had to cross oceans to get here how their journey didn't start on land but within, and how the ocean rendered them both lost and found. I'm finding so much at the bottom of the sea. Ask me how I'm floating towards England with the tide, but I cannot let India out of sight because my heart doesn't want to be broken into. And so everything I run from, I also run straight into. I am running in water. Ask somebody that has had to cross oceans to get here how hope brings them here, but safety doesn't follow suit. Only they can tell you that it's because safety often comes with lies, and it's danger that comes with truth. I am searching danger for truth. Ask somebody who is en route how birth isn't the only start. How home might be where one is born or where one just stays, but many times home is something that has to be earned in meticulous ways. I am paddling underwater to make home. Ask somebody that has had to cross oceans to get here how fear isn't an obstruction, but is the wind beneath the sails. How important it is to throw oneself in the lurch and to accept that the same water that now drowns you used to once quench your thirst. Ask me how my ancestors have swum in all directions to survive history, how maps have been drawn in their bodies, and how my only return home is in owning every ounce of pain in their bones. So do not ask somebody that has had to cross oceans to get here what borders they have transgressed. For these people are not afraid to go to hidden places within themselves. Ask somebody that has had to jump into the water unprepared. What was the last season in their land? What was their last sacrifice, their last theft? What have they packed? What have they buried? What have they forgotten? And what have they left? We have come here on the back of memories. I have come here on broken promises. So do not ask me what I have taken when you do not know what I am forsaking. And now, get out of the way, for a self is in the making. A self is in the making. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you so much. Okay, that's a beautiful poem. That really is, and absolutely love it. I'm going to be cheesy at this point because I keep talking about how we can express ourselves and stuff, and I think that shows that it can express yourself can come through so many different ways, and that absolutely hits home. It's on top of everything else you said. That was just beautiful. Thank you so much. Because I'm actually lost for words, which, as my colleagues will admit, is a rarity, I'm now going to pass over to our next speaker straight away, Joanna, after that. So, Joanna, if I can pass over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. Hope everyone can hear me okay. Hope the Wi-Fi is fine. And thank you, Anka, as well. That was incredible. And everyone else who shared already as well. Thank you so much for contributing. So my name is Joanna and I work at Haringey Migrant Support Centre, and we work in London supporting people with insecure immigration status who are navigating the hostile environment. And so I'm going to share a little bit, I guess, about why we're standing with you all against our cruel and horrific visa system and why we are grateful for Migrant Voice for inviting me to speak on this as well. Many people we support through our work. We offer immigration advice and casework support. Many people are on long, challenging paths to secure their status. So some might be on the 10-year route, having to renew their visa every 2.5 years, as we've heard already. Others are navigating a 20-year application, which means they're having to make an application to show they've already been here for 20 years to then only enter the 10-year route. Others are falling out of the route, becoming undocumented because of this cruel and extortionate visa fee system. So it's great that we can bring awareness to this. And I think the prolonged routes to settlement create unbearable burdens for individuals and for families in our community. It's not only a financial toll, but also, as we've heard from many speakers already, it's a psychological toll, emotional and social impacts that our government pricing people out of status has. A lot of speakers have already shared on this, but families that we support, we see are driven into destitution, often into risks of homelessness. People are driven into debt because they're having to borrow money to pay these fees or take out loans, leaving them in hardship, leaving them struggling to pay rent or struggling to buy food. And obviously, it's particularly harsh on those with no recourse to public funds. We often see that even when people we support manage to gain status, they risk losing it again if they can't afford to keep paying these fees when the time comes, when that 2.5-year mark comes around again. And obviously, everyone gets unexpected life crises, be it illnesses, family emergencies, or even the ongoing cost of living crisis that we're all in right now. And these all mean that if they come around, people might not be able to have the money in time, even if they are working to get money together, and their status might be put at risk again. So the financial strain we see in the people that we support is crushing, and the impacts also ripple out across generations. Children and young people in these families bear the weight of a system that is forcing them into impossible situations. So facing homelessness or food insecurity obviously also has big impacts on children, and parents being compelled to choose between paying thousands to keep their legal status or meeting basic needs like feeding and housing their families. There's a really deep emotional toll we see. On top of everything I've said, I think people miss out on major life events, which is really crushing. Years spent away from family and friends. Some of our community members have mentioned that they've lost loved ones and close relatives abroad, but they couldn't return to say their goodbyes because they were still navigating this cruel and long route to settlement and to getting their papers. We also support many individuals who are nearing retirement age or already in retirement age. And because of that, they're dealing with health issues and other complications that come with being of old age, particularly those, as I said, that we support who are making that 20-year application and only then being on the 10-year route. Some have made remarks that the government seems to be waiting until they're on their deathbed to grant their status, and what good is it then when they can't really do much with it? So I want to join with you all tonight, and I think it's ridiculous that our policies treat people who see this country as their home and who've made a home here as temporary visitors and keeps them as outsiders and creates a sense of exclusion. It's also undeniably racist. I don't know, I mean, I don't need to say this to all of you here, but there was a recent report that said I think 86% of those forced onto the 10-year routes come from countries like Nigeria, Pakistan, India, Ghana, and Bangladesh. So it's a horrific system that disproportionately targets and harms racialized communities. And we see this with people we're supporting at Haringey Migrant Support Centre as well. It's unjust for the government to be profiting off people's needs for safety and stability. Everyone deserves the chance to belong, to feel safe, to plan for their futures with dignity. So we at Haringey Migrant Support Centre are here tonight with you all to join demands for shorter, for more humane routes, and for immigration fees to not be higher than the actual cost of processing them. There's no need for that. There's no need for our government to be making money off people like that. And I just want to thank you again for everyone who's shared. It's really great to be with you all in such numbers today. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Joanna, and thank you for joining us and speaking tonight. Because listen, it's great to see you here. It's great to see Haringey here because it's about everyone coming together. And what you've said is so spot on that we need everyone supporting each other on this because people are being forced into poverty. It's the situation is destroying lives. And when you think about the fact that some visa fees can be 7 to 10 times the processing costs, it's treating people as an ATM for the government, as a magic money tree, and that can't be allowed. So thank you for flagging that and the impact that you see on the ground as well. I'm now going to pass over to our next speaker, Mariko. Thank you very much, Jonas. I'm going to say Mariko has very kindly stepped in at the last minute, so I'm very, very appreciative for you stepping in. And thank you so much. I will pass over to you now.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me, and good evening, everyone. My name is Mariko. I am a proud member of Migrant Voice, and I'm also a member of steering committee of this visa free campaign. So I'm very, very glad to be here with everyone, and thank you so much for all the previous speakers and sharing your experiences. So yeah, I have lived in the UK for about 12 years now in total, on 6 visas on 3 different categories. So I was a student and I was a worker, and I came here again as a family member. It doesn't really change the fact of who I am, but this is how they want to categorize me. So that's who I am. But I'm still on a temporary visa because of the gap that I had in my residency in this country. So I'll be paying next year for my indefinite leave to remain, which is very another stressful and uncertain time. But I still consider myself to be more privileged than many of the people going through this visa fee and the immigration system in the UK. So I would like to speak about the communities that I come from and I work with. So I currently serve as the Executive Director of Southeast and East Asian Centre, or SEAC for short, which is a London-based non-profit community organisations led by and for migrants, refugees and people seeking asylum from East Asia, and Southeast Asia. And being non-European migrants, I think I'm here speaking about more rather pre-Brexit situations, but the majority of our community members have been paying visa fees for many, many years, which for some people, the cost is close to or more than the average of annual income in their home countries. And many people borrow money to cover these visa fees and other related costs, including money for brokers, while having their family members back home to support financially. Yet they are tied with their employers, partners, many other conditions attached to the visa, including non-recourse to public funds. And in such situations, people are often forced into and also to accept the situations that they have no way out of exploitative working conditions and abusive relationship, which has been already addressed by some of our previous speakers. And I want to talk a little bit about the seasonal agriculture workers because Peter from Flex has touched upon it. And also these are the people that we have recently worked a lot close with. So we have had a lot of work with seasonal agriculture workers coming from Southeast Asian countries, such especially Indonesia. And these workers are heavily in debt. That's not only the visa fees, but all the related costs in their recruitment, as well as their traveling, whatever the documentations that they have to get in order to come to the UK. And this is quite similar to overseas domestic workers visa. I also want to mention that because I know some of the domestic worker sisters are here in this rally. And this is a very short-term tied visa of less than 6 months. This maximum duration of the visa lasts 6 months. So there's no way for them to continue to the settlement route, and also because these visas are not renewable. But what we found while we were working with these workers, that the agriculture workers, they are also taxed for their earning. So we're talking about the health searchers, we're talking about the visa fees, and these temporary workers are also taxed with their earning of 6 months. They're taxed for national insurance, they're taxed for their income tax. But when they go home after 6 months, when the visa expires, there's no way of getting it back because the HMRC will not return money to people who hold a bank account in some countries. So those are just a little bit of context that I wanted to add to this. But just going back to sort of the main point that we have seen in our communities that some people, a lot of people are forced in situations that they can no longer afford visa fees. I think one of the previous speakers also said that so that they become undocumented. And we know how undocumented people are treated in this country now, and they lose access to healthcare, doesn't work, accommodations and education for children while living under the constant extreme fear of authorities and detentions and deportations. And many of these people are backbone of our societies. They work in a social and healthcare, they work in domestic work, they work in agriculture, food processing, manufacturers, catering, and logistics and transportations. And these extortionate visa fees deter many migrants and their families from living dignified life as a human beings, and extortionate visa fees also disempower these migrants and deter them from defending their fundamental human rights and labor rights. But looking at the other way, that it means that if the visa fees are reduced to the affordable, in line with actual processing costs and made free for children, people in our communities and the wider migrant communities can have opportunities for accessing decent work, healthcare, education, and safe home to go back to at the end of their day. And the society that gives everyone opportunities to live dignified life is the society that embraces everyone. And we don't know when we will fall into the situations that makes us very vulnerable. And what we want to see is that our society will embrace us, no matter no matter how our situation is, no matter how much money we can pay to prove your rights, to fundamental human rights. That's what we want to see. So I think I will just stop here. But thank you everyone for your solidarity with all migrants, and it's really, really nice to see everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariko. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, there's nothing, again, I'm running out of things to say because all our speakers are saying absolutely everything that needs to be said, which is the point of tonight. So that's excellent. What we're going to do now is play another video before we move on to our next speaker. So Taj, if I can pass to you as our technical genius to play the next video. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Banu, and I've been living here for 20 years, over 20 years, and we are on a 10-year long route. Our visa is going to expire in December, and I have to resubmit my application. So in December, that is coming after only 2 months, and the fees I have to pay for a solicitor, for NHS, and for Home Office is something that is creating, I can say that sleepless nights, because we are so much worried about the payments we have to make, me and my husband. I'm not representing myself or my family case for this 10-year route. I am representing other families as well who doctor are suggesting antidepressant, and they are saying that you are mentally ill because of the long route. I feel that we don't need medication. What we need is reconsideration of these long route visas and the huge amount of fees. I feel this is a solution. People like us, we don't deserve this kind of very cruel decisions. We are living here. We are living as a citizen. We are putting as much effort for other people are doing. We are not taking any kind of benefits, but we are paying a huge amount, and this is helping. This is really something that distracting some people like us. We were so much talent, but we just been ruined. Our life has just been ruined in those 20 years. So I would say that please reconsider it if you can.
And again, we're looking at the videos tonight as well, because we're just trying to get as many voices in here as possible. And talking about voices, you're possibly going to have to scroll back through the chat a little bit, but Taj has very kindly popped into the chat some resources for people, including our leaflet, which gives some details about visa fees, and also a survey, because it's really, really helpful to get your feedback on what you think of today, what actions you think can be used going forward, what solidarity is being shown tonight. So if you can look at the feedback form and fill it in, it would be really, really useful for us to do that. But now I'm going to pass over to Flora, who's going to very kindly speak next. Flora, the floor's all yours. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Daniel. My name is Flora Mutuku. I'm an immigration lawyer, and I'm here to basically talk about one of my experiences with a client. This is a family, so I'll make sure it's anonymous as well, but it is a case study. And as you will see, it reflects a lot of what you have all said. This is a family of 5 where the father came to the UK after being headhunted in his home country. He quit his job and came to the UK. Unfortunately, when he got here, his employer changed his employment terms. His certificate of sponsorship said he should come in as a manager for the establishment. When he got here, he found out that he had been put in a supervisor role and that his salary had also been reduced. As he had quit his job in his home country, he didn't feel that he could go back. His plan was to come here and work hard and make a life for himself and his family. So he decided to stay on. After a couple of years, he sent for his wife and his children. When he finished his 5 years, he came to apply for his indefinite leave to remain. Unfortunately, at the time, the Home Office had just introduced the requirement that basically your salary has to match your job role. And they did not provide adequate transitionary measures. So he and his family were basically refused the indefinite leave to remain. They tried to appeal. The appeal was refused. They spent a lot of money, tens of thousands of pounds on solicitors' fees. And that was actually before they came to us. So we tried basically many things. Eventually, we succeeded. They were granted leave to remain on compassionate grounds because of some of the family members' mental health issues. And then they were put on the 10-year visa route. By that time, they were homeless, they were relying on food banks and also on their charge for food. I think one of their saving graces was that their MP was really supportive. He kept supporting us through the applications and, writing to the Home Office, challenging them, but he also rallied a local community around them. Unfortunately, this family still have not managed to get their indefinite leave to remain. They're still having to spend thousands every 2.5 years. At the time of their ILR application, at the time it was refused, their oldest child was 9 years old. They are now 19 years old. The second child was 8 years old. They are now 18 years old. The first child could not join university. But luckily he's got onto an apprenticeship program. He couldn't go to university because the family cannot afford to pay international student fees. The second child has also been accepted to university. They can't start because for the same reason. The second child says they would like to study law because they have seen the hardship the family has gone through with immigration and also employment law matters. The third child will be finishing high school in a few years. And I wonder, will they face the same fate? These are children who have been affected due to no fault of their own. And the same thing with their parents. I think, and this is not just, unfortunately, this is just one family. I have dealt with so many families like this. It is heartbreaking. And it takes a toll on the family. It also takes a toll on representatives, if I'm being honest. Because sometimes I feel I'm supposed to be here working for justice. But when I look at the system, what I realize is there is so much injustice. I wonder, why did I go to school? Why, right? Did I go to school to actually come and support an unjust system? And one of the reasons I've actually continued doing this work for me is I'm sad to say this, it hasn't been because of the system. It's actually been because of the people I have met along the way and the families that I have worked with. And now one of the things that I actually I've learned in the process and that I advise anyone, and I'll share this advice with you, is I've come to believe even as you're going through your case, right? As you're going through your appeals, I know it's very hard not to lose hope, right? So try as best as you can not to lose hope. Keep going on. But as you go on, please do not forget to live your life, because you are still a human being and you deserve all the rights. You deserve all the opportunities that you can get. It might be hard, but just keep pushing through. And also remember that the goal is actually, it's not just to survive, right? But as I say, to connect with your humanity. And I think it's unfortunate that the extortionate visa fees, alongside, of course, a hostile environment, have been a stumbling block to many people. I hope now that we have had a change in government, I hope that, if we keep pushing through, hopefully the Labour government will hear us and make some changes. I'm at least grateful to see that for now, the visa fees have been, there's been no increase, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Flora, and thank you for sharing that story as well, because that really hits home of the impact it has on, these have on children as well. The whole family is affected. But also, thank you for saying about we need to keep pushing forward. Please don't give up. I keep saying this, but the point of tonight is to show solidarity. You aren't alone in this. So it is a question of keeping pushing forward. And that, I'm hoping, is something that people are going to take away from tonight, is that there's strength out there in numbers, in support, to keep fighting on for this, for a fairer system. I'm now going to pass over to Raquel, our next speaker. So I will pass over, and thank you very much for joining us tonight, Raquel.
Hello. Firstly, can you hear me? So, Manuel, give everyone a little wave. Here's my dragon. Here's my werewolf. And I am Raquel. I am an enforced single parent. I am trick-or-treating as the meeting is going on. My signal's not great. My battery's dying. This is all normal stuff. So bear with me. I'm just have a little piece to say, and then I will wish everybody well for the evening. So, friends, tonight on Halloween, we are gathered to face a true horror, the heartless barriers that keep families like mine apart. As an enforced single mum of 2 young boys who you've already met now, I've spent 5 agonizing years separated from my husband and them from their dad. With him, thousands of miles away, is my stepdaughter, his daughter, also waiting. They're in Brazil and also torn from us by these impossible visa costs. And here's the harsh reality. Reuniting us on the 5-year route will cost over £20,000. On the 10-year route, a shocking £35,000. It's not just expensive, it's cruel. And these policies aren't just numbers on a page. They inflict real, severe emotional harm. My boys are growing up without their father. They miss his voice, his laughter, his support at their school events and birthdays. My stepdaughter aches for connection, trapped across the world from the family she deserves. The mental and emotional toll on my children is unimaginable. It's cruel and it's wrong. Studies show that children separated from parents face anxiety, depression, and difficulty forming bonds, which is true of my own children. My children are living this reality, forced to carry a weight that no child should bear. And it's not just the children. Every day, I struggle with the loneliness and pressure of parenting alone. My husband lives with the heartbreak of missing his children's precious years. This system is tearing families apart, harming the mental health of children, parents, and stepchildren alike. So, tonight, we're here to do more than tell our stories. We're here to demand change. To those in power, we say, end this nightmare for families like ours. And echoing the ask of Migrant Voice, here's what I'm calling for. Number one, visa fees that do not exceed the actual administrative costs and should be free for children, including stepchildren who are being kept from their families by these prices. Number two, abolish the international health surcharge, immigration health surcharge, which is an unfair burden on families already stretched to their limits, and a double taxation when the spouse starts to work. 3, cap all routes to settlement at 5 years so families have a fair and achievable path to be together. 4, reduce waiting times and improve Home Office communication, because no family should be left for potentially months in agonising uncertainty. And number 5, simplify the visa process. Families should not have to navigate a costly maze just to be together. These changes are both possible and urgent. Stand with us, share this message, raise your voice. By next Halloween, if not before, let's make sure families like mine aren't haunted by the impossible cost of reuniting. Together, we can make this change happen for every parent, every child, every stepchild, and every family waiting finally to be whole. That's it from me. Good night.
Raquel, thank you so much. And thank you to your sons for allowing you to interrupt the trick-or-treating there. I know how important it is, but that was absolutely fantastic, and solidarity with you and with your boys and your whole family. Thank you so much. I'll let you get on with the trick-or-treating now. Okay, and next up, moving swiftly on, we have Anna, who you saw Anna's video before, so I will pass over to Anna now to tell you a bit more. Anna, all yours.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me well? Great. So my name is Ana Wembes, and in the video I said that I'm an international student, but actually I just completed all my studies and everything went great. Graduating with distinction, yay. So I'm just waiting now for my graduation in December. So I guess that doesn't count anymore as a student, but anyways, I am also the country representative for my country, Nicaragua, within an international association of students and alumni for a scholarship program. So today I wanted to take this time, and I thank Migrant Voice for creating this platform for these for all of our voices, because I don't want to share just my story. I also want to share the story that is shared by everyone that is in a position like me as an international student. And in the video, I made mention of my complex and expensive process for getting to the UK. I think I mentioned that I had to travel to another country, a neighboring country, because in Nicaragua, there is no UK embassy. And that meant that I had to go to one of the few countries within the Central American region where I could do the whole process. But I had to go to do the photo taking, the prints, and everything. And that was super expensive, especially for international students that are coming on a scholarship. And those costs are not covered by the scholarship because all the costs within the funding are applied once you are considered a student in the system. So anything that is related to visa is not always covered, and we come from low-income countries. So I'm not going to go into detail for that, but because it's a long story. But I will say that once I finally made it here, I made it to the start of my program 1 month late. So I had to catch up with all the academics, with all the migration processes and the follow-up that has to happen. So that put me at a disadvantage. And I'm not going to say that it made me vulnerable academically, but I don't think it's fair that I was discussing with my classmates, and I even helped some of them, guide them through the process of the visa. And they will be like, oh, wow, our visa processes are so different, because for them, they would just have to upload something online through their phone, through an app, and that was it. And they told them, now you just have to wait for your response for your visa. And for me, I had to travel, I don't even know how many thousands of kilometers, 2 times by bus. The infrastructure in our region is not the same as here, so it's not as easy to travel. And I was lucky that I had friends and their families welcomed me into their countries when I had to do all this process, because I didn't have money to afford a hotel or a hostel or anything like that. It was just really, like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. And I feel like it's the same process. It also takes a village and a whole community to go through these difficult processes. And going back to once I was here in the UK, I got my VRP. And as a student, as a full-time student, I was allowed to work. And I thought at the beginning, that's really cool, that's great, because my scholarship my funding was €1,000. But because I was studying in the UK, it was converted into pounds. So my monthly stipend was £845. And my first apartment, my first flat here in the UK costed £600. I was left with 245 to get a phone plan, to afford my food. I also lived super far away from the university, so I had to buy the bus tickets every day that I had class, and that was it. And that's considering that I'm not a kind of person that has a lavish lifestyle. So it was very difficult. And even though I was supposed to be able to work, it was really hard to get a job. I tried for many months getting a job as a student, and I was not given one. Fast forward to now that I've completed my studies, I was happy that my program allowed me to apply for the graduate visa path, but it costs more than £3,000 for me to be able to do that. And with the funding that I received throughout my 2 years of scholarship, I couldn't afford to save at all, because I was just I'm living with this. This is just the amount that I have. I was never able to get a job. And now that I consider applying for the graduate visa, I have not been able to get a job, even though I've been applying since the beginning of the year, since prior to my completion of my studies. And it's very difficult. I'm lucky that I have made friends and have a strong community here that supports me in every way that they can. But I know that not everyone has the same kind of support system that can allow them or that can even share with them food, that can share resources or discount websites or anything that can help the person support themselves. I know not everyone has that, and I'm lucky to be able to have it. So on this day of action, I am representing the voices of Nicaraguans, Salvadorians, and the rest of Central American students, any international student that comes here with their dream to pursue higher education in the UK. And I'm calling for a human first approach to visa processes. Migrants and international students are not numbers to be slashed, which is a word that every time I see it online, it really causes strong emotions in me because I just don't consider that humans are just that, something to be cut off, something to be slashed or diminished. They're human beings with aspirations, and they have desire to contribute not only to their home countries, but also to their host country in the UK. So we don't come here to just take, we also come to give. And I feel like we should be considered for that. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. And I love that phrase, human first approach. I think that is the perfect way to sum up what we need. That sums everything up into such a really clear way. So thank you so much. And congratulations on the graduation. I hope it all goes great for you. So now we have Kezia speaking next. Kezia's hopefully here. Yep, brilliant. Kezia, I will pass over the floor to you.
Hi, thank you very much, Daniel. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kezia. I'm part of the steering group for the visa fees, and I'm also support a lot of migrants in various capacities in my community and across the UK. So this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. One, first as a migrant, and two, as somebody who give support to other migrants. So just as a backstory, just like Mariko said, I've been exposed to the system on 2 different visas. I first came into this country over 21 years ago as a dependent for my parents and went through the system of applying for visas. And actually each time we got to the mark to apply for now indefinite, the government actually introduced the limited leave to remain. It never used to be there before. And then during my time is when they introduced that, which was for a 2-year period, which was crazy actually. And then you apply for indefinite, and we are the first lot actually who did the life in the UK test, which was very interesting because there was nothing to actually prepare you. It was the first one. There was lots of confusion. So my first interaction with the UK migration process it's not been clear. It's never been clear. It's never been direct in terms of even the paperwork. For those who filled out the applications, the language of the applications, first of all, is not user friendly. It's not appropriate, and that's where a lot of confusion also comes along, and some people actually fail in that hurdle because of answering the wrong question or not filling in the appendix and things like that. So I feel, first of all, as we challenge the visa fees, also the visa system and the application process has to be overhauled, and the wording and the process has to be checked, because that's the first hurdle that is causing a lot of problems. Secondly, after going through this whole process and getting my citizenship, just like Anna said, Anka, I think she was from India. It's very detrimental because for my country at that time there was no dual citizenship, so I had to wait for a long time for the laws in my country to allow me to actually apply for dual citizenship. And the only thing was, you always think, what if I need to travel back to my home country to see relatives and all that kind of thing. So it was already a precarious situation where you're deciding about that. But also during that time when I was applying for my citizenship, the laws around supporting migrants into employment were very murky, and a lot of jobs were, unless you had citizenship, some graduate schemes, especially then I'd just finished university, would not allow you on unless you were a citizen, even if you had been here for 5 years, completed the process. So obviously I was overjoyed when I got the citizenship, and that was over 14 years ago. And I met my husband over 6-7 years ago, and only to restart the process again by applying for him the spousal visa. So unfortunately for me, I've had to go through this visa issue twice. And unfortunately, I'm always the one paying because of having to pay for my fees and now having to pay for my husband's fees. And it's been really heart-wrenching because there are so many things that people don't know that I entrenched within visa fees. There's some hidden costs like your biometric, which are handled by another commercial company. And actually the government announced the other day it's changing all the commercial partners across the world, and who knows what that will mean for different places. And that already creates its own uncertainties. And then there's the fees for the health search, which everybody has spoken about, which is double the fees. You're already paying double taxation. And then the worst thing, actually, I felt that was a slap on the cheek was you're being asked to do an English test, and you're from an English speaking country, and things like that. So some visa applications are not everyone goes through the same processes depending on the country you come from. And there's that also to apply for. There's all kinds of fees that are hidden that you're not aware of. And especially for me, where you're proving that you have the accommodation, it has, these surveys that have to take place. You have to get letters to say that the property is yours and all these kind of things. It was just a whole whirlwind of things. And I think also one of the things that I felt very sad about was the intrusiveness of my privacy, because it meant that I had to tell my employer to give me a letter to say that I'm employed with them, this is the amount I'm paying, that the pay slips are real. You have to prove and overprove and all these processes, and there's no guarantee. That's the thing, you're paying for all these fees, but there's no guarantee. And as you all know, it's non-refundable, so they can deny you the visa and you've spent all the money. And I think now where I've reached with this process, because thankfully my husband came to the UK, it's the other issues that have faced, such as you can't rent a space now because of the laws that came in, where landlords have to check, obviously, if you have the right to work and remain in the UK. So they have to check all that. And sometimes they don't understand the different visas people have. So because you're put on a 2.5 year, you have to renew every 2.5 years, they won't want to give you a tenancy. And those are kind of things that we are facing. The other day I had to renew my tenancy, and the landlord again was like, oh, are you going to be okay? Is everything being fine? Because of my husband's visa process. And the most tragic thing happened 2 weeks ago. My husband had worked so hard in his job, and he was granted, because of his personal development, a course to study, and he'd already started the course and everything was going well. And then on Monday, he was told he cannot do the course anymore because his visa doesn't cover for the entirety of the course, and he's already started it. Even he was so heartbroken, and to encourage him and to say, sorry once more again. And you actually sit down and wonder, is it worth it to have to have brought him here? All the hurdles you push yourself to, you can't even plan your life around 2.5 years. It goes by so quick. Not only that, if for those who when I spoke in London in our last event, I was 8 months pregnant, and I was so worried because I had waited for his visa to be renewed for over 18 months. You're waiting 18 months for a renewal of a visa. You don't know if the father of your child is going to be in the country. So there are many who've spoken here about being forced single parents. That is a reality. I'm going to have to renew his visa again next year. Where is that money coming from? They've already increased the fees, all the nuances that are going on in media, especially with like Livia mentioned about the riots. I live in Liverpool, and for those who don't know, Southport and Liverpool are in the same county. It was horrendous for those few weeks. I didn't leave my house. My job actually requires me to travel the breadth of this country. I couldn't do that because the kind of people I support as well, they're very, let's just say because of their role, they're not very pro-migrants. So I feared for my safety. Like Joanna said, and the rest of the people, you can't plan, you can't travel, you can't go on holidays. There's a lot of, cost involved in that. So it feels the quality of life goes down, and you're not sure from day to day what to do. In all this to say, I don't give up easily. I've been fighting about this visa situation for over 15 years, and in various organizations and in various groups, and I believe, like Migrant Voice have a strong portfolio right now. And actually, I've seen the growth of this charity from when it first started with the steering group and all the campaigns we've done. So yeah, it's simple. We keep saying this year on year, and that fees are extortionate. Why are they not listening? Because let's face it, there's never been a time where migrants have been seen as a valuable commodity, and like not a commodity, but valuable people. They actually put in something into the community until pandemic, when they, health workers were the ones who, would clap for them. And actually, that's when the first time the health surge was removed, only for health workers. So it gives me hope it can be removed, but I don't know how we will manage this, but I believe it can be done, because if they could see the value then, they can see the value now. And I am so sad that families are having to be separated, that people are having to miss out on life events. They're missing out on even events that are about their own lives. You can't go on expeditions, experiences. You can't even invest because the laws are against you. So I just hope, and I stand in solidarity with everyone, and just say, as a Liverpool supporter, there's the slogan, "You never walk alone," and I believe that we never walk alone. But we also have to do the work. We have to keep pushing. We have to keep writing to our MPs, no matter how hostile it is, no matter how the media portrays us. And there's an agenda. Let's face it. There's an agenda about migrants and the wording that is used. We have to challenge the wording that is used by media. Those who work in the media field, we need allyship. I'm so grateful for the trade unions who are here. For those who are not part of the trade unions in your organizations, join them as well. This is the only way you can have a voice and can have protection as well. So I am hoping through this that the next time we meet again, there will be traction, there will be changes, and we won't have to talk about the same thing again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kezia. And just to say thank you for being on our steering group. Our steering group are absolutely essential for the campaign. I know there's a few other members here today, so thank you all for joining us. And yes, what you've shared there absolutely hits to the point of this and to the root of what we're looking at. Now, I'm going to hand over to our final speaker, Anastasia, and if hopefully you are here, and I'll pass the floor to you.
Hello, thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate to give me the time. For me, I think this whole thing, I don't know, I was fighting with my emotions when everybody else was talking. I think I'm on the longer route. I've been here for 26 years, and 11 years I waited as an asylum seeker. And they do whatever they want with you. They treat you like, the whole system is like, they treat you like less than a human being. I used to be in London. They changed their mind. I was like in Essex, like in Barking side. They said, oh, we found your accommodation, new accommodation in Croydon. Or another few months, we found another accommodation for you, suitable for you according to what? In Kent. I was in a refugee camp. If you tell someone right now, there used to be a refugee camp in Kent, people wouldn't know there is such place here in England. They talk about those third world to have refugee camp. Even in this country, there is refugee camps. I was there in a refugee camp where you line up for your food every single day. My background is in farming. And for you to wake up every morning, you are not allowed to even undo your own bedding. Some workers are, it's all part of like, you are not allowed to work because you are an asylum seeker. So they employ other people to come and do your bed and do your, it's just, I look at them, I'm thinking, what is this? But I lived a life like that. And the language they use when you go for their interviews and the way they ask, you just don't know how to answer. Whether you know the language or not, there's no better way of answering that you come out of the office satisfied that I answered well. There's no way. They find it's more like a game of Tom and Jerry. You know, you just have to, you just don't know what's around the corner. Until I stayed like that, and you can't like give any chance to go, would I call it a chance? Treated like a criminal, you go and sign like a criminal. Every Friday you sign because they don't know what to do with your case. You live in that kind of limbo. 11 years, I'm telling you, 11 years. Then from there, they give me 5 years temporary leave. I left 2 kids in Africa, 4 years and 7 years. Up to now, I'm talking about right now, 26 years, I've been in this country. I never managed to do anything. Summer holiday, if you come to Coventry, you see me, I'm here. If you don't find me at my house, I'm at Peace House, I'm at Memorial Park. I can't afford to go anywhere. That's how now I'm supposed to be working. What kind of job am I going to be working? Minimum wage. I walk 18,000 steps per day to try to cover, you know, not to buy bus pass, to go to work, 18,000. And your screens of your phones, if you Google, you are supposed to do what? 10,000 per day, isn't it? But I go over that because I don't have bus pass. But after all that, when you get paid at the end of the month, there's nothing left in there to save. I'm supposed to do the citizenship. Where am I going to get the money to save up for the citizenship? I try to read Life in UK, when in Henley did this and all that. I'll forget before I get the money. Then you start. So every year I'm restarting. And I've got a child who is like 18. She almost didn't qualify to go to uni, but that child was born here. She was born here, and the father is English. And they said they wanted a birth certificate that was signed between the 12 months of the child being born. And that birth certificate was lost between the lawyers during the asylum seeking and the Home Office. And they said, if you don't give us this birth certificate, we need £400 to do the DNA to see you get accused of, being something else. Now they want the DNA to show that this English father is the real father. 400 quid. Where am I supposed to get that kind of money? I'm grateful that there's a law center here in Coventry. Just a month before my child has to prove that she qualifies for uni, they just came to our community event and they were like, oh, if you have got any issues you want to ask, come and ask. I went with my story because I had applied for her passport thinking her father is British. They refused, but they take the money. The little money I had saved for my child to take, they take it. They've got no shame whatsoever. I'm telling you, when I die, I'm coming back on Halloween Day on number 10 Downing Street. That's where you're going to find me. Don't look for me at my graveside. I'll be at number 10 Downing Street. Because what I went through for the past 26 years, nobody should be going through all that. All for what? The little money I get, that's just mean. Little money I get, you want it back. My child applied for finance, student finance. They gave a little bit. They said they can't find me. They couldn't find me in the system. I'm paying my consultant. They couldn't find me in the system. But they wrote to me to say they overpaid the child tax. £300 I owe them. They find me for taking money from me, but they can't find the sign that I'm contributing. My child actually qualified to have student because I'm on low income. They can't find me there. You tell me, what is that? I mean, in the simple English, since I'm a migrant, I don't understand this English. You tell me, what is that? So I don't know this visa business thing. I'm completely lost. These government people, they shouldn't talk to me because I'm going to tell them I'll come back on the 31st of October. I will. Whenever that day comes, you'll find me there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's hope we can get this rectified before you have to come back and haunt the Home Office and the Prime Minister. But thank you so much, Anastasia. I'm going to very quickly wrap up now. I just want to thank all of our speakers tonight. There's so many things have been covered, and I'm well aware, looking in the chat, there's other areas we haven't touched on. It just shows how complicated this issue is, how many different facets there are of it. And we are going to fight on all of them because this is what we need to be doing. And having people stepping up and sharing their stories is the way we're going to get people to understand how that is. If you would like to speak to the press, we are always happy to talk to you. If you would like to come forward and we can speak to you about that a bit more, please do contact us. If Taj can put the info email in the chat, then you've got an email address to let us know. But again, I just want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. As I said earlier on, we are going to be launching a report and we're going to be doing that hopefully at Parliament, but we are really requesting that people share it with their MPs and push that out there so that we can get this information out in front of policymakers so we can enact change. And just finally, I want to thank all of the Migrant Voice team. You've had me talking all night, but behind the scenes and in the run-up to this, we've got an amazing team anyway, across Glasgow, Birmingham, London. They've all put in so much effort. So thank you to them as well and to all our volunteers tonight. And on that note, I will wish everyone a good night and thank you for joining us because you've made it what it is tonight. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening and see you soon. And you're not alone.
Yep, you'll never walk alone.
Absolutely.